We are recording now. Well, welcome to this interview. I am very honored to have with me Constance Seddon today. She is Miss Regal World in the Classic Division this year, 2021-2022. We met when I was representing Brazil in the same pageant, and she's going to talk about which countries she represented, and she's going to talk a bit about herself and her life in English-speaking countries. Welcome, Constance.
Oh, thank you very much, Poliana. Nice to see you this evening. And hello, everyone else.
Please talk a little bit about your experiences living in English-speaking countries, as much as you can in detail how it has been for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, there's a lot I could say. Briefly, shall I start maybe by introducing myself as Constance Seddon, and this year, like Poliana said, um, Classic Division, Miss Regal World, 21-22. Right, I am a mother, first of all, a mother of three and a grandmother of three. And I came into the UK 26 years ago. And the reason why I picked UK as a place to come and work was in my own country, which is Zimbabwe, which I was representing in this pageant. So I was born there in Zimbabwe. And so part of my life was in Zimbabwe. And I went to school over there and then came here to study briefly and went back to Zimbabwe and then decided I wanted to come and work here. So it was up and down. So having been in Zimbabwe, which is in Africa, I hope all of you know that, Southern Africa, the country of Zimbabwe speak English as a language for schooling, but we have our own vernacular languages. There's mainly three big ones there, Shona, Ndebele, and Nyanja. So I'm Ndebele, and my mother is from another country. So I also speak a little bit of that language as well, which is Zambia, so a bit of Nyanja. So when you go to school in Zimbabwe, you've got to go through nursery, where you have to start learning the English language, getting you ready for first grade. So at home, you speak your own language with your parents, and they teach you a little bit just to get started with the English. And then you go and have a year learning the language of English, ready for first grade. And then you do your primary school, and everything is done in English. But for you to be deemed as someone who's qualified or who's got enough subjects, you've got to have the local language of your choice plus English. So if you pass English and fail your local language, you're not deemed as having full certificate. You've got to pass both. If you pass your local language and fail English, you are not qualified as well. So you need both. Because really, I'm not sure how much history you might know. Zimbabwe used to be called Rhodesia before, and basically it was colonized by England. So they named it Zimbabwe. They named it Rhodesia. And then after independence, the name was changed back to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe just means a house of stone, because there's some ruins there which historically were made by the indigenous people, and it's all a big, big, massive house of stone. It looks like a massive castle where the king or the chief used to live. So they called the country Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe means house of stone. So that's the education system which was adopted there is exactly the same as the one in UK, because the people that colonized Zimbabwe or Rhodesia at the time were coming straight from UK, and a lot of them were coming to take posts in the government to run the country. So there were a lot of educated people coming from the UK to Zimbabwe, and the education system then became quite high and more or less at par. So the exams that were written were UK exams. So it was not difficult after you've been educated in Zimbabwe to move to UK, and you could get a scholarship. There was a period when we were friends where we could get scholarships, and there was a lot of interchanging of students. You could go for attachment, you could go and learn something, and in either country. But it's not the case anymore. I'm not going to go into that one, but basically, people that were educated in Zimbabwe, because of that background of having English as the second language and learning everything, the history, all the other subjects, everything is done in English. So even the university qualifications and everything, they are at par with the UK. So that sort of put Zimbabwe on a higher level of education, just because of the way the system was worked. With time, I think maybe 15, 20 years ago, things did change. They are now using local exams, which they set themselves, and they work, of course, hand in hand with the other universities everywhere else just to keep the standards high. But it's sort of different now, because if you then want to go and work in UK or in an English-speaking country, you then need to have some checks done on you, and they have to see what level it is in comparison to what their country has.
Let me ask you something about this. It's very good that you touched on something that I was curious about. Um, when you talk about the exams in English and the local language, are they standardized tests that give you, for example, an idea of what the level is for everybody, or are there levels, for example, after you finish junior high, which would be year 8, year 10, or can you talk a little bit about that, the division?
Right. Well, the structure is such that in the primary school, it's grade 1 up to 7. Sorry, grade 1 up to 7. That's primary school, which is equivalent to, for UK, it's up to, they call it year 6 here. But over there, we call it grade 7, but it's exactly the same period that you're in school. And then you go from grade 7, you then go to what we call Form 1, Form 1 up to Form 6. So Form 1 is first year of secondary school. They go there at 12, yeah, and then all the way to O level, ordinary level, which is, I think here they now call it GCSEs, and that's 4 years of high school. And then if you pass that one, you then go into A levels. A levels is Form 5 and Form 6. So it's Form 1 to 6, but at fourth year, you've got to write the O-level subjects and then select the few that you want to specialize in the A level. From A level, which is Form 6, you can then go to university. Over here, you go from primary, which ends at year 6, then go to secondary, where you do your 4 years and get the GCSEs, and then select the AS level up to A level after that, and then you're ready for university. So
That's very informative. I don't think they would have known this, that my students would have known this, because what the idea that a lot of here in Norway, they get a lot of background in history and geography, but details and something coming from someone who is a real person and not just things written on a book, though it's really informative and precious for them. What I would be interested in for you to explain to them is, for example, here what they do, they can choose whether they want to, if they're going to study to become a nurse or a nurse's assistant or a kindergarten assistant. So already in high school, they can choose some subjects specific for these areas. Is that also possible in Zimbabwe?
in Zimbabwe, they emphasize a lot on getting the academics right. Mainly, for a full certificate at O level, you got to have done maths, English, history, science, and the science either it can come as split. It can be chemistry, biology, or it can be general science, and then you can specialize into a particular one when you go for your A levels. So if geography is another one. So there's many subjects you can have, but you've got to have 6 very good ones, and those are the ones that get you to be selected for A levels. So when you're actually choosing the subjects that you do at A level, 3 main ones, and maybe use of English or grammar just to help you along for your assignments later in life, you've got to have passed them really well. And there's so much competition because universities are not plentiful like in this country. There's a university, say, in nearly all cities, whereas in Zimbabwe, the universities are limited. So there's so much competition to get through to A level. So there's a big sift. After O level, there are some courses, obviously, people can do. For example, they can start to go into nursing and into teaching, primary school. And if you want to teach in the high school, you then have to move to go into A levels and then go to university. And yeah, or if you want to go and be a lecturer, you then, yeah. So, but the competition is quite high. So if you find somebody who has actually been able to get to university in Zimbabwe or managed to pass enough to go into university, even here in the UK, they've got to be really sharp. So I can brag a little bit about that one.
Yes, and this is what I would love to hear about your personal experiences
Yes.
about this and with school.
Yes. Well, I was a little bit fortunate. Well, not a little bit, but a lot fortunate. My parents were both teachers, so there was no room for not getting the good grades. There was just no room, and choices of which subjects and all that. It had to be quite an exercise, really, and a lot of discussion going into it, and all the pros and cons and all that. So that way I got quite some guidance. But I went to good schools, so I did well in my O levels and got selected to go and do A levels. And after we done the first year of A level, which is Form 5, there was a big career guidance that was um, arranged at the school that I went to, and they came all sorts of professionals to talk about what they do. And I was blown away by this woman that came, and she was talking about um, radiography. I'd never heard of that before, and I thought it was to do with radio. I'm on radio. But then when she started talking, oh, well, it was in a hospital. It was a hospital job, and she spoke about it, and she told us what she had specialized in and how she got there and the subjects that she needed. And bingo, they matched what I was doing. I was doing maths, chemistry, and biology. So that was what I needed for entry. And oh, straight away, when I finished, by the time I finished, I actually knew what I was going to do. So I then enrolled for that and managed to get through. And then
And this was in Zimbabwe, where
this
you've.
Yes, this was in
Mhm.
Zimbabwe. They have all these things, and the university there and other tertiary um, establishments. They have all those trainings. But what they do is they have exchange programs. So what we were learning, the theory was coming from UK, and the practical we were doing it locally. So the actual certificate that we had was a UK qualification. So it was not difficult to just go and work either in Zimbabwe or in UK because it was the same certificate. And if I have my certificate and someone who studied here, it's exactly the same because we had the same exam, same everything. Just our practical places where we were doing attachments were different.
And that's very fortunate. For example, in my case, I got some of my education in the USA, then in Brazil and in Australia. And here in Norway, I had to get all my degrees approved here.
Right,
So
right.
they weren't pre-approved. But in
Right.
your case, the systems match. So you
Yeah.
were able to use your education in the UK.
That's for people my era, my age, because things didn't change. Like I was saying, they now have their local exams. They're still exactly same standard, but because they have a different certificates and obviously the heading and where it was originated from, so they then need that yeah, that matching when they do come. But once they are in the system, because we do have some nurses that are still coming from Zimbabwe to work here, and they just come and they match whatever they are bringing and give them 3 months. They call it adaptation. So in 3 months, they can see that obviously they know what they're doing and the training they got is more or less the same. So they just need that 3 months, and after the 3 months they then know that they can deploy them to go and work elsewhere. So for me, during that time when the certificate was exactly the same, um, I got an application. I just applied for a job because we get the magazines and all the job um, magazines and any adverts. We do get them in Zimbabwe, so anybody can apply. So at that time, I just applied and got this one, and I came over. When I got here, I decided I wanted to top up. I wanted to study a bit more, so I did that, and I went and just specialized still in radiography, but I went into nuclear medicine. So nuclear medicine is a branch of radiography, but it's like a more specialized um, department. So that's what I do. And I've been working for altogether 34 years. So I've sort of stepped down a little bit, getting ready for retirement.
This is amazing, your journey up to this point. And it's very interesting that what you're bringing to the table about chemistry and biology and going to the medical field, the importance of these subjects. This is really important for them to hear as well. I want to ask you now about how you became Miss Classic Regal World. Tell us how the journey was.
Pollyanna, thank you. Like I was saying, I've been working that long, and my children are all grown up. So I just wanted to slow down and just get ready to wind down and retire. So I took what they call flexi retirement, where you're still working, but you're only doing limited amount. Well, I'm doing 3 days a week, and then the rest of the time I just do what I want and just enjoy other things which I couldn't enjoy when I was on full-time employment. So I've always wanted to be on stage. I've always wanted to act. At school, I used to take part in drama, used to take part in any dance competition, anything that was on stage. I liked it so much. But because I grew up in a family where they were steering so much towards academics and not the art side of things, I just knew it was a no-go area. So I'd never really go into that. I was so much interested in fashion and acting and modeling, but because of the background that I had, that having an education and having a proper, well, that's what they call it, a proper job, which has a name, you know, that's how they referred to it. So I couldn't do any of these, at professional level. So I had to get a profession and carry that through. And now I'm free to go into that. So I was doing little bits of modeling, little bits of adverts, and little bits film, just small parts in films. So I'm registered on Star Now. So on Star Now, there's lots of other things that you come across there because there's lots of artists on it, modeling, acting, presenters, and everything on there. And that's where this pageant came up. And it was pointed out to me actually by the staff at Star Now, because I had mentioned that I'm interested in stuff like that, but I'd not done it. And yeah, so they said, oh, someone's advertising for this, and this is something that you said you were interested in. So yeah, and I dropped in my interest and got a little bit of an interview at the beginning. And yeah, the director said she liked me, and we started off from there. So we had to introduce ourselves. Um, yeah, just a little clip, a little video to say, well, why you be suitable, why you want to be in the pageant, and what you want to come out of the pageant with, and why you think you should be the queen, and yeah, and just talk
And
about
I
that.
knew you were going to win from
Oh,
from the very beginning, and I was rooting for you in your division. I mean, all the others were amazing, but I felt like you have this quality about you. And I think because when you talk about education, the everything that you have told me today in this interview, it just makes me feel even closer to you because education is freedom. It is a way of life that gives you so much more in life. And I feel like we're so fortunate to have had that. And I think it's like
Um,
when you say, oh, my both my parents were teachers, so that is such a blessing.
I can't emphasize it enough. I really, really would want. I'm not being sexist, but I really want girls to give themselves that oomph by being educated, because you have so much you can do to choose. You have so much to choose from, and for me, I think for me to even get to where I am, um, it's probably through having been educated already and then divert into something that I like, not doing it as the main source of income, but doing it for my own pleasure and just enjoying like what we're doing right now. I'm really happy to be talking to you and just sharing my experiences. And there are certain things that you can have in your mind, but you can't really share them because you don't have the platform to share them. And I actually have something that I'm passionate about, which I actually introduced when I introduced myself to the pageant director and said I want to talk about organ donation, organ donation for Black people. There's a 10-year waiting list. And I just think for someone to be having dialysis with kidneys that don't work for 10 years, by the time you get the donor, your body is so shattered, you're not likely to last. So I was trying to encourage people, Black people, to register themselves in the organ donation register so that we can help each other with organs. And it's quite difficult. So I was doing that before, just encouraging people on a one-to-one basis and all that. But I needed a platform to be able to be put somewhere and say, talk to people as so and so. You
And
find that,
actually, as Miss Regal World in the classic division, as somebody with such experience, I feel like this platform is priceless. You can do so much with it. So I think it's amazing.
yeah. So actually, I'm so happy that I managed to get this honor of being classic Regal World um, queen this time, and I've been using it so far. I've already had, I've been given a platform to talk to young people at the youth center just to inspire them to get up and go, because there is so much in terms of opportunities in the UK for the young people, but I don't think they embrace it enough. I think it's because they take it for granted. And having come from Africa, where children are crying to go to school and they can't afford and they can't get into higher education because of lack of the places or lack of the money. And then this side, there is so much available and it's all free. And then you find people are like, oh no, oh, and not embracing that. So it's something I'm passionate about. So I did speak to them, the young people, and they were asking lots of questions, which made me happy because I just felt, well, I must have provoked something inside them. And I said to them, you know, you guys are very lucky. You've free schools, free meals at school, free this, free this. embrace it and make something of yourselves and be free, so you don't have to be asking from anybody for anything. And I said to them, I don't
Yeah,
go.
you are right now talking to kids here in Norway who are listening to you. Well, I'm going to have this posted on my YouTube, and this will also be shown in the classes where I teach international English and also English for high school. Both of them, they are classes where they need to learn how to express themselves, but not only that, they learn about the countries where English is spoken. And I'm sure that most of them don't know that much about Zimbabwe. We hear a lot about the UK, but you brought a lot about Zimbabwe. They did not know about, and I feel like it will be very valuable to them. So, can you talk about your experiences as a woman of color in the UK specifically?
Right. I think it's something that's common knowledge that when people don't have somebody's history, when people don't really know any, some people don't even know the geography of where people come from, or just the structure of where we live. They tend to just base their knowledge of people on what they see on telly or what they hear from somebody. And when they have that feeling of being higher or superior to certain people coming from elsewhere, there's always a problem of fitting in. But with the power of language, it wasn't so hard for me to sort of find my feet when I moved, when I emigrated to come here. First of all, because I could understand everything that people are saying. So there's nothing that anybody could say which I wouldn't understand. There are certain gestures which obviously I would have to work out that, okay, they've said this, but that gesture doesn't quite match. Then, with time, you just get to know that somebody is being sarcastic, or somebody is being funny, or somebody's, things like that. They're a little bit different because in my country, there are certain things that we do which can be perceived completely wrong. I'll give you an example of when you're looking or talking to someone face to face. If you're a junior, if you're younger, and you're talking to someone who's older than you, in my country, if you look at them like that, you are defying. You're a defiant person. That's how that person would perceive you, and they'll think you're not someone who's going to listen to what they say. You're actually challenging. Whereas in this country, if you look down like we would do to show respect, they think you're either lying or you don't know what you're talking about and you're not confident. That's why you look down. So things like that you are things which one has to adjust really from one culture to another. For example, if you go for an interview and you go and look down, thinking you're being respectful to your future employers, you have a problem, because they'll think, oh, why is she looking down? She's not confident. She doesn't know what she's doing. So yeah, it's just little things like that. But I had all that prepared because in Zimbabwe at that time, everything was sort of same as here, and the teachers that we had were from the UK. So we got to know quite a lot about the culture, about things in the UK before we even came here. But I must say, I'll give you a little experience which I had um, when we got into UK and then found this house where we lived close to the hospital where I worked. Um, I had some neighbors that were very unfriendly, and they they would shout some um, abuse and to say, you know, go back to your country, you're taking our jobs. And I just one day, well, I didn't used to answer or anything. And then one day I just decided to say something and just said, are you aware that there's such a shortage at the hospital where I'm working? There is such a shortage. We're having to do extra work to cover that work. So for you to say we came here to take your jobs is not fair. I can show you where you can put in your application so that you can come and then we don't have that shortage anymore. That way, you then can't say, we came here to take your jobs. And she said, well, I don't have that qualification. And I said, well, so I didn't take your job. I've just got my job. Because if you want it, we are actually looking for people to come and work in the department. And from then on, our relationship changed. And I must say, it's the way we went about talking about it. Because I said, well, I mean, you do shout this to me every time when I'm coming from work or when I'm going into work. Can I say there is a vacancy and there are a few vacancies? So really, I did not come here to take your job. There is a space if you need to come in and work there. And, you know, it just ended up being a joke. So we laughed about it for a long time until I then moved to another place. So, yeah, you do get things like that. But I
But you
think
felt that it was more because you were from a different country. It wasn't a racial thing. It was more of a, they felt intimidated that people from other countries were coming in, from what you were describing.
um, of course, I've got to say the truth is it was because I was black, because there were in that locality other people from elsewhere, but they were not black like me, and they never got that. So I felt that it was to do with my color, but it didn't bother me too much because um, I think I'm just it's just my personality. I'm able to like try and rise above some of these.
Yes, and you said something earlier in our talk now about the power of language. I love that because with communication, you can overcome so much. In the situation that you just described, you were able to solve a conflict with the power of language, expressing yourself. And I think that's really, really, really important. What I want to do is I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is such an honor to me to have you here. And I want to give a shout out to Victoria Georgeville, who made this possible. We wouldn't even have met if it weren't for her and the pageant, Ms. Regal World.
Oh, thank you so much, Pollyanna. It was lovely to get to know you. And I also want to thank Victoria for giving me this opportunity. And as you know, I've always loved the limelight and I'm getting it so much. I've been invited to so many things so far only because of this crown, which some people knew me but never invited me to come and speak or say anything. And now I'm talking to people in Norway. How cool is that?
Yes, see
Oh,
how wonderful this is. I want to try to take a picture of us. We can take a picture. Let me see. It says more here. I want to take a picture of us. I know what I'm gonna do. After I watch the recording, then I'll be able to
Or you can do some screenshots.
just to make some screenshots of us together. And one day maybe we'll meet in person.
Oh, that would be
Yes,
lovely. That would
that
be
would be
lovely.
so nice. So
Nice.
thank
I think being able to cross from Brazil to Australia to Norway, it's the power of language, like you're saying. Yeah, it's kind of easier for you to get into any setting because you can communicate, and it's powerful. That thank you so much, and it's really
So I will have this on my YouTube and my students will watch it and then we'll give you feedback on how it went. There is, I think it's 40 minutes that we have and there's a huge amount of information that they can learn and I think it's fantastic to have this. So thank you so much and we'll stay in touch on Facebook and we can always reach out. There's Instagram, all of that. Thank you so much for this, Constance.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who was listening. It's so
And we'll stay in touch. Bye bye.